Liam,
What?
would you consider yourself a true winner?
Where are you going with this?
Are you a winner?
Of course I'm a winner. Everyone's a winner, right?
Well, you're especially a particular type of winner because you were there last Saturday for Win.
I was. Yes, that's right. We're covering, obviously, wrestling in Newcastle. Settle the score. But you know what? Got a nice little video to play. Here we go.
On Saturday, May the 4th, wrestling in Newcastle returns to the Forest Hall Social Club, when we will settle the score. We have two main event matches. Ash Shreddy and Brady look to settle the score with the tempo of Malum. Shreddy takes on Rob Drake. Brady Phillips defends the Wrestling in Newcastle Championship against Isaac North, accompanied by Violet Vendetta. Tickets are just £10 each, or you can get 4 for just £30. We can't wait to see you there on Saturday, May the 4th at the Forest Hall Social Club.
Would you say that scores were definitely settled?
Some scores were settled, not all of them. Obviously, that was an early trailer, teaser, whatever you want to call it, that we did for the event some time back. And I don't know if you recognize the music, but it's definitely not ripped off an old WCW pay-per-view. Anyway, there were some changes, obviously, to the card, and we'll get onto that as we go on, and the reasons why, unfortunately, in the world of indie wrestling, and I suppose really pro wrestling anyway. I mean, it happens to the big boys as well. The card is always subject to change. So
absolutely. So, of course, we're covering wrestling in Newcastle, settle the score, which is obviously May the 4th. This was actually my first time at this event. So, I mean, it's a nice venue. I will be honest, that venue is really, really nice, but it's bigger than what you obviously claimed it was.
Well, I've got this perception that, fans think that they're expecting some sort of arena. Obviously, we've done the big events, such as, I know you've been at 1PW and, Rev Pro do big buildings, and I work for NGW. They, when they did the big arena last December, and they usually do in the big, the town hall venue in Hull City. So this is a social club on an estate on the outskirts of Newcastle. Really, it's not even within the city centre. Did you have any problems finding it, or was it all right? Or
no, everything was fine. It was absolutely spot on. The only issue I've got with this venue, and I'm sure a lot of people's had this issue, is the parking, which you kind of pre-warned me a little bit before I obviously came.
Yeah, as I say, it is on an estate, and straight off the bat, Liam, I do want to thank you for wanting to talk about wrestling in Newcastle, which we've touched on before a little bit, but this is it is a new company. They are relatively unknown in the grand scheme of things. Let's be honest, but they seem to have a bit of a buzz online. I don't know how strong it is. There's a lot of companies in the Northeast. There's a lot of companies nationwide. I'm very opinionated on British wrestling groups. I'll flat out tell you that I think some are ran completely wrong. I think there's a lot of terrible stuff out there, and that's not a knock on even the talent or anything like that. It's just the way that they're ran. Not to go into too much detail about that at this moment, because we're focusing on the positives. But the point is, they've only ran 5 events. This was the 5th event last Saturday. It hasn't been running often. Started pretty much last March, I think it was, 2023, and here we are today. So it's good to have someone from yourself, 2-hour drive, I think you said, to come up to Newcastle to see this particular event.
Absolutely. And I want to obviously talk about the name, because I mentioned this to you. The 2 reasons obviously I actually came is, 1, we spoke about it obviously on previous shows, and 2 is actually the name, Settle the Score. How did this name come about? I don't know how much you can give away.
Well, we did have a discussion about names, and it was I'll take some credit for it, because it was one of the names that I put forth. It wasn't Settle the Score. I don't think it was. We were talking about the Hulk Hogan and Rowdy Piper thing. The War to Settle the Score, the famous MTV special back in the day. Some fans don't even know what that is now, but that was pretty much the prelude to WrestleMania. Anyway, the point is, I think the team that we have behind the scenes, not to give too much away, but basically, I'm very opinionated on the way British wrestling's presented in some areas, as we've talked about as well. I think there's a lot of silly names out there, a lot of sort of in jokes and references to pop culture, and I just think it's moving too much away. I mean, that's okay to do now and again, but now it just seems to be all over the place. And the fact that we could have called it, we could have given it a Star Wars reference with it being on, May the 4th. I don't even remember when that became a thing, but a lot of companies doing that, and that might be fine for them. It might be fine for their audience, but I've always felt that it's going to confuse a lot of people who could otherwise come. I do believe in more traditional names. And as I said, that Settle the Score, or the Water Settle the Score, was one of the names that I might have put out there. I think it was probably, I'll give him credit, our general manager Benji, who wrestles elsewhere as well. I think he took that name and he modified it somewhat and came up with Settle the Score. So there you go.
Absolutely. I mean, like I say, you just mentioned that it's 5 shows in, and like I said, it was a 2-hour drive, and just the whole feel about the actual show is absolutely terrific. Do you know what I mean? The staff were friendly. Obviously, I know you yourself. There's some names on the card who we actually know. So overall, it's a great feeling. Do you know what I mean?
That makes me feel good, Liam, because you do wonder what you do. I mean, I've done so many events at this stage, over 20 years of sort of ringing out and being involved in wrestling, doing various things. You sometimes don't have a good grasp on what's good, and you've got to rely on the audience to sort of tell you. I've got my opinions on what I thought worked, what I thought didn't work so well. But you've got to listen to your audience a lot of the time, and for you to turn around and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed this event," and it was an event that that wasn't on a lot of people's maps, so to speak. There weren't. It wasn't the most talked about event, I don't think, at the weekend. But if we can, ride that wave, so to speak, and capture something there, and then future events. We've got the Summertime Showdown in August, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. The big event in November, Grand Slam. In a year's time, hopefully, there'll be a lot more buzz about wrestling in Newcastle. But I do want to say it was another sellout. They've been mostly, maybe they've been all sold out. I'm not entirely sure about the first one. It was still a good crowd, but yeah, they're all selling out, and it is word of mouth, and we get families specifically aimed at that kind of audience, as you could probably tell. But we are getting a lot of I hate the term, really, it's overused, the sort of smart fan, but people like yourself, people who read about the events and recognize the wrestlers online coming along. So there is a buzz about it at the moment, I feel, and it's growing bigger, and it just might mean bigger venues. It might mean more events. I don't know. I don't have that say, unfortunately. I'm not a promoter. If someone wants to ask behind the scenes, no, it's not me. And I'm not at liberty to give information away, but it is a good team. I want to give a shout out to the guy that does the posters and the artwork and stuff. I think it's tremendous, and it looks so professional. And one of the best reviews I read, I think I told you this, it might have even been on another show we did on here. One of the best reviews I read was that they got about 3 matches in, not for the last event, but for it might have been the Rumble event in January. 3 matches in or so, and they were saying this is much better than I was expecting a social club. And I don't know if there's a stigma about social club events on smaller states, or if the quality, people just think the quality is going to be it's not up to standard, whatever that means. But I don't think it's the case for us, because we've got a good mix, and we'll get onto the card, no doubt, of established wrestlers, and we're also helping newer guys as well, or guys who haven't had the exposure that they maybe deserve.
Absolutely. So let's get the day of the show. Obviously, you mentioned earlier that injuries happen, and I was actually 3/4 of the way. I pulled up for a bite to eat, and I saw the thing with Isaac North. Now, if I remember right, that was I don't know how much you can give away about that, but I imagine that was stressful with that incident in a way.
It was, and we wish him well, even though he's a real nasty character. No, Isaac North is a great wrestler, and he was in our main event, and unfortunately, due to illness, he couldn't make it, and that was 9:00, 9:30 in the morning, where I was talking to the the creative team, so to speak, and what can we do, what's going to happen, and they're obviously giving me insight as well of the situation there, due to a set of circumstances. It's like domino effect, isn't it? Unfortunately, Rob Drake, wasn't able to be there, and Violent Vendetta as well, which is a shame, because the Temple of Malum, this heel faction, for lack of a better term, were taking on our top fan favourites, and they were unable to get there. So it's a shame, but it happens. But thankfully, we were able to get in touch with Saxon Huxley. Stroke of luck there, because he's a hell of a performer. Obviously, he wrestles all over the world. He's just from Hartlepool, which is not too far from Newcastle, and luckily he wasn't booked anywhere else. He was able to make it, and I think you'll agree. It was a worthy main event with somebody of that name value against our champion in Brady Phillips. So it worked out.
Yeah.
But stuff happens. I could tell you all kinds of other things. There's things I can't, obviously, and relating to other wrestlers and stuff. But the number one priority is to always look after the talent.
Absolutely. But I mean, like I said, the main event's obviously good. But let's obviously get to the show, shall we? And match number one was, of course, Adam Bolt versus BT Gunn, who obviously great start. I mean, I've spoke to Adam. He's obviously up and coming. BT's obviously got his own career path. I mean, I can't be honest. This was an absolute perler of a start. Let's be honest.
Yeah, again, the name of the event settled the score. Luckily, we had a few scores to be settled. It wasn't just with the Temple of Malum and Brady and Shreddy. Obviously, that situation had to change. But we had a few matches where there were grudge matches, so to speak. This was coming off the Northeast Great North Rumble, I should say, in January, where Boggs low-blowed Gunn in the Rumble. And ended up eliminating him as a result. So this was obviously a payoff to that. And BT Gunn picking up the win against Adam Bolt. And it's funny that you said that, Liam, that he's been on the show. I was looking at the card just a minute ago and just thinking, how many of these guys have you actually interviewed on here? I think there's quite a few, isn't there? Or they have at least connections to other people. So yeah, I think matches like that, it's a good opener. It's a clear, it's distinctive. Face heel divide. It was action packed. Less than 8 minutes long. Did its job bell to bell, and can't say anything fairer than that.
No, not at all. And like I said, I mean, Adam's obviously young. He's still I'm not going to say still got a lot to learn, but he is great in the ring. I appraise his mic skills, and they actually create something which I really, really love. I've got the image somewhere. This little spot here. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I mean, love that. There is interaction there as well, sometimes, and I think the crowd, the locals, are becoming familiar with the various talent, even though they might not have known them, previously. Even someone like BT Gunn, who's been around a while and obviously known all over the country, the local fans there, in that, as I say, that social club based on that state, they might not know everybody, but it's testament to their talents, and The
one thing I love about that image as well is I'll put it back on in a second. You can actually see me with a big massive grin on my face right there at the back.
You know what's funny? I seen you during Adam Bolt's entrance, and you were shaking your head, I think, and I was like, maybe does he hate this guy, or is he playing it up? And then I think I remembered. Oh, I think he was on the show, so.
Yeah, the thing is, right,
you for protecting kayfabe as well.
Yeah, the thing was, like, he did his obviously entrance thing in front of me, so the camera sees like the good side, but the other side, it's just me going, "Oh, dude, here we go." But no, I mean, I like Adam. He's great in the ring and stuff like that. So yeah, solid opener. Now, obviously, Rob Drake wasn't on the show, so the question I was asking myself is, what's going to happen with Shreddy? And we got a nice little answer. I mean, obviously, this was the original plan, but
no.
Stevie, I don't know how much you can obviously give about how this all came about for this tag match.
There were a few ideas. I won't go into too much detail as well, because there are reasons for that. So I can't give too much away here. But as you may have seen advertised, there was a training seminar earlier that day. There were two guys that were suggested. I was even asked my opinion on them. I watched them in the ring. They seemed to be, pretty good. Should we give them the opportunity? Yeah, sure. Why not? So if you want to go ahead and just explain what happened, Liam, and we'll go from there. But that's how it came about. That was it, and it was a good idea, and it was, made to put Shreddy over, really. And he is the the number one fan favorite. That was always the argument that we've had over the last few events. Who's more popular, the champion Brady or Shreddy? And this segment was primarily to help Shreddy.
Absolutely. The one thing I want to touch on, obviously, Shreddy a little bit there, because the one thing I like about his character is the unpredictability. In my own head, I mean, I will be honest with you, from a fan's point of view, I thought he was going to turn, obviously, on his tag partner. That's how. And then, obviously, the tag, and I'm like, damn it, I've got screwed here, but damn. But that's credit, obviously, to Shreddy. I feel like he can work heel or face, as a performer.
I think I quite like that he's kind of cocky as a face. I don't. I'm trying to think of an example of this. I mean, it's like, going back, even Hulk Hogan was kind of cocky a little bit, just a little bit, as a baby face, and he cheated all the time if you go back and watch it and all that kind of stuff. And there's a thing about Shreddy where it's kind of like, is he full of himself? Is he a little too full of himself? But people like him, it's like, but he's Shreddy. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm glad. I'll explain what happened for the viewers that don't know. So I introduced Shreddy, and he's basically talking about the main event and stuff, and putting over himself, and there's a bit of back and forth, total improv, and then he basically puts out a challenge, and Alexander Henry, he comes out. Not everyone knows who he is. I don't know if you knew him previously, Liam.
I didn't.
But he was a guy. Lots of, just great luck. Lots of prospects. I don't know his backstory, why he quit for a while, but he's back now. He looked good. Obviously, comes to the ring. Acknowledges myself. Acknowledges Shreddy. Says he's friends with Shreddy, and it'd be a great match, but he'd rather team with him. So they put out a challenge for anybody there. There's obviously a bit of waiting time, and then two new guys that we haven't seen before show up. And I don't know what you think of them, or if you recognized them maybe from somewhere else. You may have.
I do. So the guy Sebastian Mercer, I have actually interviewed on this show.
There you go.
And then Joe Sedgwick is going to be on the show this weekend.
There you go. So you can ask them about that, how it came about from their point of view. But yeah, good looks. I don't know how old they are. They look young to me. Obviously they're not as big as Henry and Shreddy. No, I mean that was the story of the match, as you probably gathered. It was pretty much, I say an extended squash match, but it was still less than 4 minutes. But yeah, it's there just to to reintroduce Henry to a new crowd, and obviously put Shreddy over. But I thought it worked out great. Being honest with yourself, it was better than Plan B, which I won't go into detail about. And we have missed out on a match there with Rob Drake. It could happen somewhere down the line. I don't know, being honest with yourself. But I think it worked out from our point of view. Hopefully it worked out from your point of view and the fans' point of view. That's the hardest thing, because you've got to, for me, if you noticed, it was before I even got into the ring that I was acknowledging that, the two guys weren't there. And you've got to do it in a way where you don't dwell on it through the night, I think, based on my experience, because if you dwell on it too much, you're giving it attention. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of feeding it more the fact that there's, 3 people not there. And we didn't want that. We've got an alternative. This is it. Going way back, I'll tell you a quick anecdote. Well, it's not really an anecdote, but it was an awkward situation where we did, it was a big 3CW event, the Middlesbrough Town Hall, back in 2007, where we were hoping to promote Steve Corino's final UK match, and he wasn't there. And there was lots of hoo-ha about that, and I won't go into detail about that because I got to talk to Steve afterwards about it and what happened and stuff. But basically, I went out in my street clothes like during the day because we did like a matinee, like an afternoon event, and then we did the one on the evening. And I explained that Carino's not here. If anybody wants to get the money back, this is what we're going to do instead. And I think there was people that came all over the country for that. I think there was like 2 people that asked for a refund, and that was it. So that's not a knock on Steve Carino, by the way. Please don't think that. But it's how what I'm talking about is how you handle situations like that, and I don't think anybody left disappointed unless anybody wants to tell me otherwise.
I didn't hear anything negative, but I mean, I can't complain about stuff, so no complaints from me. Next up, we've got, and this is the kind of match which sold me to this actual show, ZZ and obviously Casey Owens. Now, everyone who I've obviously spoke to on this show, I'm talking obviously Richard Young, I. Wilburn, even Adam Bolt, they've all mentioned ZZ in some way, and I've seen her perform. Obviously, she's up and coming, we know that, but I mean, the fans absolutely love her. I mean, I think she got a really good reception, let's be honest.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm not just saying this, but I think this is the best performance I've seen from her to date. From me personally, I've obviously seen her other places limited compared to maybe some other people. Yeah, she's young. She's very tall, isn't she? I think Casey Owens is fantastic personally. Based on the reaction she got from her entrance alone. And obviously she's worked all over the place, all over the world, and we'd love to have her. I'm just speaking. I say we. I'm talking about myself rather selfishly, but I know talking to the guys as well. A lot of us would love her back because I think she's a real, whatever word you want to use in terms of, she's just a treasure at the moment. I think she's really good, and they had a great match. And as I told you secretly, I'll tell everyone now, I did upset Ivy. Ivy was there watching. And I did make the statement after the match, probably the hardest fought win of ZZ's career. She chewed me out. She wasn't happy. What are you talking about? Dear. But that was fun. But yeah, it's easy. ZZ's great. Casey Owens is great. And I'd love to see that match again. Again, it was about 7 minutes, I think, bell to bell. But they got the match over. They did all that they could, and fair play for CZ, who's on a roll in wrestling in Newcastle. See where that goes.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned obviously Casey Owens there. Now I'm a big fan of these types of entrances. So when she come out with the entrance, I'm like, I love this because it's just my type of things. I don't know if is it weird, wacky? How would you describe her entrance, really?
I don't think it is. I don't. This is it. I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between being completely ridiculous and dark and overly goth or whatever that term may be, and being like, no, I believe that this is a real person, if that makes sense. And I think she is believable, and she's got a presence, and she's got the mask, and you have to see. I don't know if you've got any pictures there. She's got the hood up and everything, and and there's a great picture that came. Look at that. It's a great picture that came up of I don't know if it's somebody's mother with a child or whatever, and the look on her face, and he's never seen anything like this before, and stood right in front of him, and I think stuff like that's awesome. And for me, not that I'm talking like a male feminist or anything here, but when it's a woman, I don't know, there's just something about that in terms of like that's really cool, considering it doesn't feel like that long ago when women's wrestling was wrote off, particularly in this country, and now there's so many great women wrestlers. Does that make sense? I don't know if that comes across as slightly sexist or what in this day and age, but that's not my intention at all. My point is that someone like Casey Owens might change somebody's opinion who's never been to wrestling before. They might go along and think, when it's announced it's going to be a women's match, they might have a different perception or idea of what that's going to be, and then they see great athletes like that, and come away and go, well, actually, that was one of my favorite matches of the night, or my favorite match of the night. And someone like Casey Owens, she's fantastic, and fair play to her. I hope she goes places. I hope she comes back to wrestle in Newcastle as well. But
absolutely, I don't want to put a special mention obviously to Casey Owens as well, because at the interval I went to got a signed 8x10, and the interaction, she was so polite, So well managed. It was really.
Oh, that's not good though. She should be telling you to get lost and spitting in your face. And no.
And then obviously my sister is recently coming to shows with me as well. She did the same thing, and it's the first time she had an interaction. And she said to me after that she was really polite. Casey Owens, if you're watching it, massive shout out.
He's not watching this shit.
I don't know. I don't know. We've got 20 people watching. Weirdly.
Oh well, there you go.
So we've obviously seen 3 single match men, single male males, tag team match. So let's have a 3x3, shall we?
Yeah.
Which is, of course, Stoker, Kemper, and HG Drake versus Kez Evans and Arcade Violence. I just want to say one thing, by the way. How tall is Kemper? Because he does not. He's like similar to ZZ, weirdly.
Similar. I think he's a bit taller.
I want about on camera. He looks a bit more smaller. Do you know what I mean?
Kemper's huge. Yeah, this is. I do have a few notes about this one. There is a backstory here. So Kez beat Stalker on a previous event. So he wants that #1 contendership. Obviously, Stalker wanted to win because he was still looking for wins, which he did manage to get in the 6-man tag. He's never had a singles match win yet. Obviously, he did win the Great North Rumble, but yeah, that's the story there. Kemper also eliminated Kez Evans from the Rumble. And yeah, HT Drake is Stoker's wrestling trainer. So there is some backstory to this match. And what you'll find in Wrestling Newcastle, which is really cool, I think, is we always, when we put the cards together, I say I'm just the guy on the outside putting ideas in. But they always try to make sense out of every single match. You know, there is a reason for this. So, you know, Tony Khan needs to watch more Wrestling in Newcastle. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? But yeah, that was the thought behind the 6-man tag.
I mean, the thing is, when it's 6-man tag, you've got to have eyes in the back of your head because you're trying to focus on one thing, then you'll miss someone on that side. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely bonkers when it comes to a 6-man tag. Yeah,
so obviously this one started with a brawl. They eventually got in the ring. As I say, you got to see quite a lot of Kemper, I thought. You know, it was a chance for him to sort of take the spotlight for a while. And yeah, Stalker, who still has that title shot, he hasn't used it yet against the champion. You know, he is the keg stacker, and he had the keg there. Did a drop toe hold on the keg. I don't know how that's not a disqualification. I had this conversation. I was like, I don't know. What do you think? Should that be a DQ or is it a defensive move? I don't know.
Depends if ref's looking.
But there you go. So Stoker, yeah, he did pick up the win. When's he going to use his title shot? That's the question. Don't know.
Who knows? I mean, like I said, we've got 2 obviously other shows coming up, which we'll get onto later on. So, but yeah, I mean, a 6-man tag, it's chaos. I mean, that's probably the best way I can describe this match. Absolute chaos, but in a good way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of story going in, a lot of story coming out. Where does it go from there?
Who knows? Remains to be seen. So obviously we have an interval then, and next up is this match right here, which is Rampage Brown and Mark Mathers. I just want to say one thing. I'm always critical of the match which goes on after the interval, because sometimes it depends who it is. It's the crowds obviously might be back. Do you get where I'm coming from with this?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like half the crowd left. Which is why I stalled in the ring. I think there was a lot of people outside. I don't know if they were having a cigarette or what they were doing. I don't think anybody had left. Maybe 1 or 2 had, because they had very young children. I mean, let's be reasonable here about this. But yeah, there was a lot of empty seats, so I did stall for a while, waiting for people to come back. I know exactly what you mean there. Because I think there was a few people rushing back that might have missed the opening moments. So the crowd level, noise-wise, wasn't what it had been in the first half. But yeah, the story here is, you know, you've got two guys who've known each other. Mark Mathers has said he trained, you know, Rampage trained him. And it's Rampage's debut in Wrestling in Newcastle as well. So there you go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, like I said, I love this student versus the tutor, because it's like I said, there's that history there, which is obviously we've alluded to throughout obviously what we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And Mathers, he was on a winning streak for a while. He lost the match against Brady Phillips for the title. Now he was looking, to get one over his former trainer. It didn't work out that way, unfortunately. Hard hitting Rampage Brown there. But this is what we're trying to do in wrestling in Newcastle as well, behind the scenes a little bit. Give guys opportunities to wrestle matches that they might not otherwise get. Now, I have been told these two have. I believe these two have wrestled before. Someone will correct me on that. But this one was very different, apparently. So, yeah, in a good way, in a more serious, hard hitting way. So it's good experience for Mathers, and who knows, might be another match down the line where Mathers can somehow pick up the win. I say somehow, he's a great wrestler in himself, and he had that winning streak, so you never know. But big win for Rampage. He's a fan favorite. I find it hard for Rampage to get booed. I mean, even how he's been presented elsewhere before. He's got that thing where a certain percentage of the audience thinks he's really cool, and they're going to cheer him. It's like, for some reason, it kind of like reminds me of like Vader in WCW when he was on that run in '93 and he was the champion and stuff. And he's against Sting, but a certain percentage of the crowd are cheering Vader. They're cheering Sting as well, but they think Vader's cool, or like like a Sid Vicious kind of wrestler where they're going to get behind him because it's just cool, isn't it? And power bombs and pile drives and stuff like that are always going to get over.
So we've got 2 more matches left, and this for me is one of my matches of the night, which was of course Ian Skinner versus Henry Faust. If I said that right, I hope I said that bit.
You're absolutely fine, and I completely agree. This surprised me in a lot of ways, and I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. I think it was the second best match of the night, but as a match I'd point to and want people to see from this event, that might be it. So the idea here is Ian Skinner wanted to debut the singles match. He debuted in the Rumble back in January. He didn't win it, and it was because of Henry Faust. So this is the follow up again, fallout from the Great North Rumble again. And when I've seen Ian Skinner and if I've seen his videos and things, I'm just wondering if he should dial it back a bit, because like. What's he going to be like when the bell rings? Is it going to be too over the top? Is it going to be too pantomime? And it wasn't at all. It was a straight up fight, and it was a great match. And it was, he was very much like an old school heel, I thought, using the ropes to try and get the pin, using anything he could to try and beat Henry Faust and upset him. Faust came out, obviously, very sort of traditional fighter style, like I'm going to beat this guy, I'm going to beat this guy up, and I absolutely loved this match. The fact that they were able to make this match feel so epic as well. And again, it went. How long was it? Again, I think it was less than 8 minutes.
7:48.
Yeah, 7:48. So there you go. Like, and it was a great match. And I would show people this and say, watch this. This is really good. And I messaged both guys. Facebook Messenger and just said, I just want you to know that this was really, really good. And I would love to see that match again. So fingers crossed we do. I'm glad you like this one because I really enjoyed this one, and I think I'd like to see it again. Absolutely. But Skinner got the win.
There you go.
Controversial manner. It was a controversial manner.
We have a review show. We always have what we call Performer of the Night. And I think we both agreed on this one. Ian Skinner was, not, I wouldn't say the star of the show, but it stuck out, for me as a fan. I'm not sure about yourself.
Yeah, I think he was, I do think he was VIP in a lot of ways. Just because I didn't expect it. I didn't know what he was going to say, what he was going to do. And I think, again, there's that fine line of being this kind of, he's not a cowardly heel, but he's an over-the-top flamboyant. Again, I'm trying to be PC with my words. Completely over-the-top kind of rule breaker. There's that fine line where you don't want to get laughs, or you don't want to get too many laughs. You want people to hate you, and I think he managed it really well. You know, he comes out, and I think he was going to threatening to do a rap or something, or a wrap off, or whatever it was he was planning to do, and it didn't work out, and he got frustrated. But he was, really mad at Henry Forst. He wanted to, prove himself, and he did kind of prove himself, even though it was, a screwy kind of win. But as a match, can't wait to watch that one back. Really, really good.
The good thing about Henry as well is I remember after the match, he got a massive ovation from the crowd as well.
There you go. There you go. I mean, you've done your job, haven't you? You know, Ian Skinner's long gone. He's in the ring. He gets up. Oh man, he lost, but this guy's great. I like this guy, and if you can do that, I think there's. Let's see it again. Do it again.
So we've got one more match obviously to cover, and it's of course main event time. Originally, we obviously discussed it earlier. It was meant to be Brady Phillips versus Isaac North storyline wise, but based on the situations, you know what I mean? Obviously, you found yourselves in. I mean, Huxley, what an absolute main event, absolute physical match.
Yeah, it was great. Nearly 20 minutes, and it really did feel like a. I always say that, as a compliment, that was television quality, if that makes sense. It was like, you could believe this as a match you would watch anywhere in the world, I think, and a really believable main event. And Brady Phillips coming in, still the Newcastle crowd, he's won them over. There's still a little bit of uncertainty there of how he is, but he's against this huge guy, wrestles in Japan. And he just looks the part, and he just looks like Bruiser Brody. He really does. Saxon Huxley, he looks awesome, and he kind of wrestles like him as well. And he's got the demeanor and everything. And just again, a really good traditional babyface versus heel main event match. And them last two matches in particular, so happy, so really, really good. And again, hopefully we've got the similar sort of guy that was there. Other times where they've said, we don't expect this quality in it. I don't mean to diss the venue, because you saying it looks really good, and it does look really good on camera. And you can watch these events, as I've said, on YouTube, Wrestling in Newcastle, just to give that cheap plug there. But when you see it, taken in photographs and seeing it in video, there are times where it almost does look like an arena, just the way it's lit and everything. So. I don't think that's too much of an exaggeration. But anyway, yeah, great main event. And obviously, Brady Phillips is still the champion. A few people thought Saxon Huxley was going to win, though. They just thought, they might do it. Given what's happened, that could happen. So there you go.
There you go. I don't know how much we can talk about. I don't want to spoil the ending after the match, because we talked about Shreddy earlier, with that unpredictability with him. And when Shreddy came out, I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be Shreddy doing what essentially Brady Phillips did. So I kind of got stooped twice in this show.
And that's it. That's the magic, isn't it? That's the magic of wrestling. Not to be too corny, but yeah, it is. It is, and it got the right reaction. What happened, and you're sort of leaving the event on a bit of a downer. But if you noticed, I was looking around, and this is the aftermath of the match, long after the match, after what had happened, and Shreddy's out there, and Alex Henry's out there, and nobody's leaving. And it's like, I don't need to say anything yet. I don't need to plug the next event. I don't need to do the raffle. I don't need to do this or that. People are sat watching because they want to know what's going to happen next. And that's the key. Like I say, that's the magic of wrestling for me, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing I want to point out is, with this actual show, I'm not just saying this because we're reviewing it, but the one thing I can take away from the show is, one, it had consistency, throughout. Every match had meaning, which we've obviously discussed. There's new talent versus experienced talent, stuff like that. And like I said, the ending, really, I'm like, oh, okay. Where's it? It makes you want to, see where they're going to go with this, you know what I mean, as a whole.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what it should be about. I don't fully agree with this, but Kenny McIntosh of Inside the Ropes says, the least interesting thing about wrestling is the wrestling. I don't fully agree with that, but I see where he's coming from. I think wrestling without the, the drama and the storyline, and knowing the personalities, knowing the people, and you don't have as long as the guys on WWE TV or EW or anyone with a big television deal, multi-million-dollar companies. You've got to go out there as an indie wrestler. If they don't know who you are, get yourself over in that match. And if the match is good, as you've seen with the Henry Forst match, you'll get over as well. And I think that's what really did happen on Saturday. And Henry Forst, he's wrestled for us before, and they've seen Ian Skinner briefly as well. But I don't think they're as memorable as they are now, if that makes sense. And the where it's going with the main event situation, I think it's good for Shreddy, it's good for Brady Phillips. They can see where this might go. I'm not giving too much away, but you could probably work it out, Liam, that there's going to be, you could probably pull a few matches from what happened there, we go from there and off we go, and that's the beauty of it. But if we're doing something like that at this level, whereas on a lot of these events, in social clubs and town halls, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this either, because I've done plenty of them myself, what Americans might call spot shows, where they're just like, they're there for that event, but they're not going to come back because we've seen it. Do you know what I mean? We've seen the circus. We don't need to go back. To me, this is more of a soap opera, and I mean that in a positive way. I don't mean it in a corny way. I mean that what happens on the next. We need to see what happens on the next episode.
Absolutely. And I just want to point this out. Well, so my sister went. She's been to 3 shows, by the way, for various towns and stuff. And the first thing she says to me when we left here, she says, "When we're coming back." There you go.
There you go.
So,
they'll love to hear that the guys involved and they're doing a bang up job, and I really do believe in this promotion. As I've said, they've only done a few events. I wish they did more, but it is what it is. But maybe it's good that way, that there isn't too many, and there's a lot of things going on in the area, and I'm taking nothing away from what other people are doing, but I do really believe in what the guys are doing, and I'm not just saying that in this more than a lot of other places.
Yeah, I did point out as well, the staff, obviously, when we went in, was really helpful as well, really polite, young and stuff like that. So wrestling in Newcastle, for me, I would absolutely recommend to anybody. But for you, obviously, being on that show, working on the show, great night for you all around?
Yeah, it was in the end. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was kind of calm about it, saying to the guys, look, I've experienced situations like this before where people have been ill or injured or whatever the case may be. There's everything's fixable. It really is. And it's worth, and you forget that yourself, you can talk about, matchmaking or booking or whatever you want to call it. And there's arguments, and there's, who you're going to use, and are you going to use this person again? And that person's attitude and that person's injury and this kind of thing. And things happen because it's a large group of people at the end of the day, and you're expecting them to, speaking of the wrestlers, they're putting the bodies on the line and all that kind of stuff. But, I went in, sort of calm, and I knew it'd be figured out. And, the people who are coming up with the ideas, they came up with the best choices. I really do believe that. It's easy to have a sort of fixed idea of, no, you need to do this match, and sometimes you just can't. And then when you see it and it's something else and it works out as well as this did, yeah, it's very satisfying. I think sometimes, and I don't mean to touch wood, I don't want to jinx it or anything, but when things go wrong, sometimes things turn out for the better, or as good as what you originally envisioned, at least. So I think that did happen. And decent time because it was an early event, 4:30 till 7. I don't know what you thought of the timekeeping there. I think 2.5 hours is about right for me personally, including an interval. When you've got families and kids there, I'm not talking about, more of events that are going to get a certain type of person. I don't know how long Rev Pro events are these days, but you know what? The old 1PW, we knew how long they were. But
yes, we did.
Yeah. So yeah, very, very satisfying. And I got to go home, go to my friend's house, and have a curry and a drink and at a decent time. And you got home. You got home at a decent time as well. I think you got home not long after me, to be honest, because I was there for a while at the end.
For anybody obviously watching, I would recommend this show. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, it depends where you are in the UK. Like I said, it was a 2-hour drive for me. Longest drive I've done to a wrestling show. Take out the parking situation. That's the only downside I've got with the venue. But the staff there is obviously terrific. The matches obviously speak for themselves. And yeah, it's definitely a family-friendly show, let's be honest.
Yeah, you know what's really cool? We had a family there just to see Scotty Rock all the way from Manchester. That came to Newcastle, and it's like Scotty Rock, he wrestles all over the country. You could have seen Scotty Rock, down. Maybe they don't know that, and I shouldn't say you could see him down the road. But it's really cool when stuff like that happens, and you are, and I know this for a fact. You are going to see top talent from all over the country at this social club, and maybe other venues as well that we're talking about in the future. I don't know what's going to happen with this promotion. I am hoping that it just grows and goes from there.
Absolutely. So next up we've got, and you obviously mentioned the next show, it's of course Summertime Showdown. Some really, really big names on there, including one which really some people don't know is Leonie Rose.
Yeah. Can't talk too much about this, but you see who's on the poster there. Guys who've been there before. Dara Diablo's on there as well. Scotty Rock's returning. So yeah. It's going to be a good one.
And obviously Nathan Cruz there, don't forget him.
I haven't forgotten him. I'm going to say something about Nathan Cruz in a minute, but do you want to plug the other one as well in November?
Of course, and then of course in Grand Slam. This is obviously Saturday, 16th of November, but it's a different venue. It's the Adrian Leisure Centre, which is it actually far from the one where we went to?
I'm told it's not. No, it's not too far at all. I don't know if it's 15 minutes or something. Whatever it is, it's certainly Newcastle based, hence the name, right? But yeah, it's a bigger venue. It's a leisure centre, an earlier event during the it's what you call a matinee, I suppose, 2:00. But yeah, that's what we're heading towards.
Have you got anything you can spill on this?
It's funny you say. Nathan Cruz, so he's returning to wrestling in Newcastle, and he wants a match in particular with the particular person who's just made his debut in wrestling in Newcastle. He does want Rampage. Now, these two go way back all over the country. They've been friends, they've been foes. So Nathan Cruz wants to wrestle Rampage Brown, and I can confirm that it is going to happen, but it's going to happen twice. All right. So what you're going to see, Rampage Brown is going to team with Stoker to take on Nathan Cruz and Zio Knox at Summertime Showdown.
Interesting.
Right? So that's Saturday, the 3rd of August, Forest Hall Social Club, as we've said. And then from there, and this is as far in advance as I could possibly announce, Rampage Brown will wrestle Nathan Cruz one-on-one at Grand Slam. So Saturday, 16th of November. Adrian Leisure Centre. Yes. There you go. And you're coming to that one.
I'm coming to the Grand Slam one, yes.
Yes. So there you go.
Can we get anything away about the match stipulation? Is it going to just be a single match? Is it going to be a street fight or something like that? I don't really know.
Well, who knows what might happen. Right now it's a one-on-one match, but if you've seen them wrestle before, it'll be hard hitting, and it'll be very good because the two are the very best. And as I say, I've seen them team, I've seen them as enemies, and this is another chapter for the first time though in wrestling in Newcastle. And it's been a while since I've seen them in a one-on-one match, a long time. So let's see what this one will be like.
I'm more bothered about the Summertime Showdown because I'm looking at that post. I'm going, is that person gonna have that match? I'm literally
trying to work it out based on what's happened. Well, you might be right, you might be wrong.
I want to touch on obviously the Brady Phillips and obviously Isaac North. I presume this match is going to happen at some point.
I mean, I'd like to think it would, but who knows when that might be? Especially given what's just happened with Brady Phillips. But I guess you have to tune in and find out. Obviously, Stoker, he still has the title shot that he hasn't. He hasn't picked a night for yet, and he's teaming with Rampage Brown at the next one. So again, holding off before his big title match. Who knows when that will be? Situation with Shreddy. Who knows where that's going to go? as I say, keep guessing. But you'll hear announcements in the upcoming weeks and months and years.
Who
So
knows? Who knows? But
Who knows?
that's what makes obviously fans fans. You know what I mean? You can keep guessing, you can keep thinking, oh, this match is going to happen. But that's what makes wrestling in a way.
That's right, and obviously it's it's the trick of making fans want to see a particular match before you announce it, if that makes sense. I think that's the secret of good booking, coming up with stuff where it's sort of implanted into the mind, and then they're like, oh, I really want to see that, and when's that going to happen? And then knowing when the right time is to give it to them. So I think you should get that. If things go according to plan, touch wood, it'll work out well.
Absolutely. So we're a little bit more obviously time. So anything you obviously want to add about what we talked about?
No, just like I say, Liam, thank you. For being able to do pretty much a promotional video here for wrestling in Newcastle, and hopefully people watching that haven't been will bite the bullet now. Tickets are available, Everbright, and it is on Everbright, isn't it? Have I got that right?
It is, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness. I had Everbright on the mind because I've been using it myself lately. But yeah, tickets are available now. You want to get them early. And support. Thanks for everybody's support that has seen us before. And if you want to just check out previous events, you can find us on YouTube, and full events are on there. And yeah, we've just added the
Great North Rumble.
Great North Rumble from January. So check that out and settle the score. Hopefully it'll be up, eventually. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in August.
I was just about to say when Settle the Score going up, because that's the one I want to watch back. Obviously the Rampage match, just to see the crowd reaction in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to watch stuff back. I like to watch stuff back. I was watching some of the Great North Rumble last night, and some stuff that you don't think is as good live. For me, on that one in particular, I thought came off better watching it back, and sometimes vice versa. Being completely honest. But I do think, watching footage back, it is different to being there live. You get a different idea of what's good and what's, not so good, and vice versa. But yeah, if anyone wanted to check out those previous events, and, I do see a marked improvement from the first event and to now. There's more of a direction, I think, which is, just natural. It's always the way that companies finding its footing, finding what where we're going, who's more popular and who's hated, and as I say, I'm sure the Temple of Malin will be back to cause chaos, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, this has obviously been the Magic of Wrestling. Thank you so much, Stevie, as always, been on the show. The Magic of Wrestling, of course, is back this weekend as we're looking, and it's funny you mentioned that, we're looking at authority figures in wrestling. So my question for you is, before we head off, best wrestling authority you've seen in wrestling, could be UK or US.
It's probably Vince, isn't it? Overall, he was the one that sort of made it a thing, really. So I think a lot of heel authority figures it became kind of cliche, I thought, after that. But the best in the UK is Benji, our general manager of wrestling in Newcastle.
There you go. Another little plug there
He's
for you,
watching,
Benji.
Benji's
watching.
Actually? He will be, yeah.
Dear. So, to reiterate what Stevie said there, you guys want to get your tickets for Summertime Showdown on August the 3rd, you can head to Eventbrite. £10 a ticket or 4 for 30. That's quite an interesting pricing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come up with the pricing or anything like that, but yeah, there you go. If you know 4 people, well done, considering you're a wrestling fan. No, I'm only kidding.
And of course, wrestling in Newcastle will be at the Grand Slam at Hadrian Leisure Centre on 16th of November. A slightly earlier time than normal, but you can get all your tickets there, obviously, at Eventbrite. And last thing, as Stevie mentioned earlier, if you want to watch any shows back, is it all 4 shows actually on YouTube now then? The previous ones?
The previous events, yeah. They're all on there now, yeah. Apart from, obviously, last Saturday, and that'll be up eventually.
Of course. So, Stevie, see us out to the outro. Any final words before we head off?
No final words from me. Just thanks, people, for watching, and keep supporting British wrestling. We do appreciate it, and you never know who might end up elsewhere or how big we want British wrestling to get, because that's my game. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to be working for one of the big promotions around the world. I want to see a British company, take off and do well. And there's a few doing very well right now. So keep supporting it. And thanks very much, everybody.
Stevie, one final question. Did we settle the score today on this?
I think we did settle the score, Liam. There might be one or two little things that we need to discuss behind the scenes that I'm not too happy about. But overall, we did settle the score.
Thanks for watching, guys.